Evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are when you see this video. Thank you for joining me, Dorothea, on it through an Orthodox Christian lens. It is still November 1st, 2025, the start of the month here. We're almost to the end of the year already. It's crazy. Okay, so the title of this video sounds like a riddle, doesn't it? Well, let's go into this article. It's going to explain from a short semi-short history lesson on this, the Metropolitans of Kiev, which I think is really important and comes full circle, I guess, or to a good, interesting conclusion that's important. So I'm going to share this with you. What happens if you start counting all the Metropolitans of Kiev? Epifany Dymenko calls himself the Metropolitan of Kiev, but where exactly does he stand in the line of succession? The question is not as simple as it seems, and the answer has serious implications. When in 1990 the Ukrainian Exarchate was transformed into the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, the UOC, its primate became Metropolitan of Kiev and Galicia Filaret Denisenko. His title was thus changed to Metropolitan of Kiev and all Ukraine. He was the 120th Metropolitan of Kiev, counting from the baptism of Rus in 988. But in 1992, Filaret broke away from the UOC, declared himself patriarch, and created a new church structure, the UOC of the Kiev Patriarchate UOC-KP. Alongside it existed the Ukrainian Autocephalous Orthodox Church, UAOC. Each of these bodies maintains its own count of Metropolitans of Kiev. So this is already somewhat of a mess, isn't it? In 2008, and of course it seems that these things, well, let's just go on. In 2018, the Ecumenical Patriarch of Constantinople, Bartholomew, dissolved the UOC, UOC-KP, and the UAOC and ordered them to unite into one church. The UOC refused to take part in what it saw as an absurdity, while the UOC-KP and the UAOC merged into the Orthodox Church of Ukraine, OCU. Soon after, however, Filaret loudly withdrew from the new body and revived the UOC-KP, but that is another story. Meanwhile, the UOC continues to exist. None of the 15 universally recognized local Orthodox churches has ever stated that it no longer considers the UOC a canonical church. Likewise, no one except the Fanar has claimed that his beatitude, Metropolitan Onufri, is no longer Metropolitan of Kiev. At the same time, 4 Greek churches today call Epifany Dymenko the Metropolitan of Kiev. This raises the question, which number is he in the sequence, and whose successor is he really? The UOC line of succession. Filaret Denisenko was the 128th canonical Metropolitan of Kiev. On May 27, 1992, the Council of Bishops of the UOC in Kharkiv deposed him from the Kiev See, a decision entirely lawful under canonical law, and these are among the charges were authoritarian governance of the UOC and the Kiev diocese, disregard for the conciliar voice of the church, cruelty and arrogance toward fellow hierarchs, clergy, and laity, a lifestyle unbecoming of a hierarch. He had a wife and children, because bishops can't have that. Perjury, having violated his oath given before the cross and gospel. The following canons were among those violated by Filaret: Apostolic Canons 25 and 27, Canon 3 of the First Ecumenical Council, Canon 6 of the Second Ecumenical Council, Canon 5 of the Quintisext Trullan Council, Canon 88 of St. Basil the Great, and others. Whew, wow. The deposition of Filaret was recognized by all local Orthodox churches, including the Ecumenical Patriarchate of Constantinople. The Kharkiv Council then elected Metropolitan Volodymyr Sabodan as his successor, the 121st Metropolitan of Kiev. All local churches, again including Constantinople, recognized him as such and sent congratulatory messages. The same occurred in 2014, when after Metropolitan Volodymyr's repose, Metropolitan Onufry Berezovsky was elected primate of the UOC. 2014. Got that. Thus, the canonical and universally recognized 122nd Metropolitan of Kiev is Onufry. The UOC-KP line of succession. Here, things get more complicated. In 1992, the defrocked Filaret formed the UOC-KP by merging his few fellow followers with the UAOC, which was then led by Patriarch Mstislav Skirpink. Boy, that's hard to stop. Living in the U.S. and Canada, Mstislav learned about this union after the fact and called on his followers not to recognize it. Nonetheless, the UOC-KP considers him its first primate, while Mstislav himself and the UAOC do not. So, in the UOC-KP's own count, Mstislav Skirpink is the 121st head of the Ukrainian Church with the title Patriarch, though we set that aside for now. In 1993, after Mstislav's death, Volodymyr Romaniuk became head of the UOC-KP, numbered 122 by their reckoning. He died in 1995 under unclear circumstances and was succeeded by Filaret Denisenko, number 123. The UAOC line of succession. Here, too, the picture is tangled. The UAOC originated in 1921 when, against all canons, Vasil Lipkivsky was consecrated as Metropolitan of Kiev by priests and lay people. That's not how you become a metropolitan. At that time, the canonical Metropolitan of Kiev, the 115th, was Metropolitan Mikhail Yermakov. Thus, along the UAOC line, Lipkivsky would be the 116th primate of the Kiev See. He was followed by Mykola Boretsky, 117, then Ivan Pavlovsky, 118. Between 1930 and 1937, the UAOC was virtually destroyed by the Soviet regime, leaving only Bishop Ion Theodorovich, who, for lack of other bishops, may be considered 119th. In 1942, under Nazi occupation, the UAOC was revived and led by Polycarp Sikorsky, 120. During this period, the UAOC's administration was chaotic. Some sources list Nikanor Abramovich as an administrator in parallel, but most omit him, so he is not numbered here. After Sikorsky, Mstislav Skirpink became head of the UAOC in 1953, 121, though by then the church existed only in the diaspora. In 1989, the UAOC was revived in Ukraine. Its primate was Ion Bodnarchuk, 122. In 1990, he ceded the position to Mstislav Skirpink, who logically would then be 123rd, though this is disputed. He was succeeded by Dmitry Yarema, now 124. Methodius Kurdrakov, 125, and Makary Maletic, 126. Which number is Epiphany Demenko? Epiphany cannot be the successor of what he himself calls a church of the FSB, the UOC. That leaves two hypothetical options. He would be the 124th if he inherits from the UOC-KP, or the 127th if he inherits from the UAOC, or 126th if Stanislav Skirpik is not counted twice. But all these calculations belong more to the realm of dark comedy than of ecclesiology. Neither the UAOC nor the UOC-KP possessed real apostolic succession, since they arose from nothing, while their primates function concurrently with the canonical hierarchy of the church. These are the conclusions. Demenko, of course, gives little thought to such inconvenient questions, but perhaps the Patriarchate of Constantinople should, for there they are enamored of their ancient diptychs and venerable lists of metropolitans, that Byzantine obsession with order and legitimacy. They like everything in its place, numbered and sanctified by time. Well, that's not exactly bad, but so let them tell us plainly who Whose successor is Serhiy Epifanidenko meant to be? In the end, this farce only underscores what has long been evident. The OCU project stands on no religious, canonical, or even historical ground. Interesting article. Lots of history there. I found it very interesting. So, as we already knew, Onufry is the legitimate Metropolitan of Kiev, but how he got there and how that came about, I did a little bit. I looked at this up several weeks back, or maybe a month now. But this one seemed a lot more clear and easy to go through and understand, and not as complicated and long as the other one I read. But in any case, yeah. So as you see, most of these things happened. It seems to me most of these came about after the mess of the Soviet Union. They decided after that, some of these started in the 1930s and early 1920s, and then they reemerged after the Soviet thing. So there was a lot of confusion going on at that time, which makes sense, obviously, because there was a lot of mess that happened with the Soviets, obviously, because of the church issues and the persecutions and the catacomb church, that was going on then, and the pretend churches that were out there for display during Soviet times, and the infiltration of KGB in these displayed churches to make it look like, oh yeah, everything's fine, we're doing just fine. we're still doing church, we're doing, everything's fine. No, it wasn't. And millions of people were killed in those 70 years. Dissidents, political dissidents, even just regular people, and of course a bunch of clergy, Orthodox clergy, and monastics, and lay people. Anyway, I thought this was a very interesting piece, so I wanted to share it with you. Maybe it helps to understand. And although it's very kind of confusing and convoluted and crazy and a mess, but hopefully you got something out of that. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for following my channel. Until next time.